Hello and welcome to this episode of Talking Adoption. And today we're looking at adopting with pets in the household. I am Grace Gomez and I am the Adopter Diversity Recruitment Officer and I work for PACT in the Reading office. And I'm joined today by Vicky MacDonald, who is a senior social worker. So thanks for joining us today, Vicky. Okay, so a total of 3.2 million households in the UK have acquired a pet since the pandemic, according to the Pet Food Association. That means that the country now has 17 million pet-owning homes. We really are a nation of animal lovers, aren't we? So can people adopt with pets in the household?
Yes, they certainly can. And as part of our assessment, when we're preparing adopters, we talk about a whole range of things that impact on their lives and their lifestyle, and pets would come under that. And we'll talk quite considerably about pets in the home as part of the assessment.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other kind of animals that are taken into consideration during the assessment?
So the types of animals we look at are animals that live in the home with you, and they could be any animal, so from a cat or a dog, or an animal that lives in a cage, a reptile or fish, or any of those sorts of things. And we cover all animals in the home as part of the assessment, and we look into kind of how you meet the needs of those pets. But equally, if you had pets outside the home, or such as you lived on a farm, or you kept horses, or animals who don't live in the immediate home but are just outside, then we'd also consider them in the assessment, and in a kind of roundabout sort of way, as we would any pets, really. It's kind of thinking about what you offer as an adopter, as opposed to looking for kind of restrictions on what you can and can't do with animals. Obviously, there may be some animals that we might consider, or some situations in terms of how your animals live in your home or on your property, that might be a restriction. But generally what we're looking for is whatever animals you've got, kind of how they're accommodated, and how you can meet the needs of a child safely during your home alongside the needs of your pet. So generally, if you do live on a farm or something like that, then you'd be set up already in terms of your home and your farm. Or if you kept horses, you'd probably have the horses kept pretty secure, because you'd want to keep the horses kind of well cared for too. So really what we're looking for is just how everything works around your pets and you.
Thank you very much. So what does the pet assessment look like?
So the pet assessment is we have a standard kind of format, and what we cover in that is all the things that you do to meet the needs of your pet. So we'll ask you where your pet sleeps, and we'll ask you where your pet is fed, and where you keep your pet's food. Some of the things we look at are around the pet's care. So within the assessment, we talk to adopters about their own care, and we're very thinking about keeping children safe, and we talk about where adults keep their medication and keeping medication in a locked box, but that also applies to pets. So if pets have got any medication, we talk about keeping their medication safe. So it's one of those things, sometimes we think about our own medication and keeping that safe, but it might be that we keep a pet's medication sort of next to their where they have all their stuff, and it might be out sort of in the kitchen or in the lounge next to their food. And so a lot of the assessment is really thinking about kind of the processes of how you look after your pet and keeping them safe. So yes, covering food and medication for a pet where they're kept. If it's a cat or a dog, we will ask you about their vaccinations, and they're taken to the vet, and we might talk about what cover you've got in terms of meeting your pet's needs if they became unwell, and that sort of thing as part of the assessment. And also thinking about where cats go to the toilet. So any pet goes to the toilet, so cats and dogs in the garden, and thinking about regularly clearing that, and hygienically clearing that as well, and just talking about how you would do that. So if it's about gloves or bags and those sorts of things, and then kind of disposal. It sounds like we do go into it in quite depth, but actually what we're looking at is making the home safe and secure for a child. So we wouldn't want children going out and playing in a garden that was full of animals going to the toilet. So we'd ask you to make sure you regularly inspect your garden, and then also animals that are kept in cages, how often the cages are cleared out, and kind of things like that. So it's quite an in-depth assessment that we cover, but actually it really is just about thinking through how you meet the needs of your pets, and then thinking about what adjustments might need to be made for a child coming into your home as well. So thinking about how your pets are. So for instance, a dog, if you walk a dog, then how might your dog, how might that fit in with the routine with the child coming in? And also thinking about where, going back to the issues around where your dog sleeps, you know, or where your dog kind of has some quiet time. You know, part of the assessment might be covering where your pet would be able to go potentially, to have some time out. You know, if it is a big change of environment, children coming in, you know, we reflect on, it's not the same as, say, you know, a very, very young baby who might come in and kind of cause a bit of disturbance from noise, but generally start off in like a Moses basket or cot. Generally, it might be children who, you know, are mobile, running around, you know, shouting, bringing in noisy toys. There are all sorts of things, and that's why the assessment is quite important. So we have an assessment that looks at, you know, how the pet's needs are met, but in the wider adopter assessment, in your prospective adopter report, that would be where we would cover more broadly kind of how your pet fits into your lifestyle, and then how a child joining your home and your lifestyle with your pet might be different in the future.
Okay, that's really good. So is there anything that people can put in place, you think, with our animals before the children came home?
Yeah, I think it's going back to that thinking about, you know, how your kind of what's your pet's life, you know, secret life of pets. What does your pet do when you're in, and what does your pet do when you're out, you know, and the changes there, you know. So if a pet's got a favorite chair, they kind of go and have a little sleep on, but actually when a child comes into the home, you know, that's going to be a really noisy place, or you know, or a chair maybe the child's going to sit on all the time. Instead, you know, really thinking about, you know, what might happen to your pet if they were kind of displaced from their living environment, and also things around health and safety for your pet. You know, so we talk about health and safety for children with stair gates for young children. I know lots of people already, you know, with animals, particularly like larger dogs, might already have stair gates fitted, but it might just be about kind of thinking about how that's going to work, how that environment with stair gates, if you've got them already, would work with children, or equally, you know, it might be the children you're considering are a little bit older than maybe you'd think for, you know, to put stair gates in. You might actually still be thinking about putting stair gates in just to make those divisions so that your pet's got their space, and you know a child can be in a, you know, in a separate space too, or cared for in terms of, you know, levels of supervision.
Okay, so do you think the pets would need to get used to the children's noises and attention in the home then?
Absolutely. As part of the assessment, it's one of the things we ask around, you know, whilst we ask adopters what experience they've got of children, we also ask about what experience have their pets got. You know, have children come into the home? Is this a home where pets are used to children coming in, and that change in the dynamic and kind of the noise and energy that having sort of guests, particularly children as guests, bring, because they won't just be children that come for a day. Obviously, there'll be children who are moving into the home, and that would then be an extended period. So, you know, quite often we talk about cats that might go off and hide, you know, when visitors come in, but actually the cats that might be quite nervous or anxious and hide. With a child moving in, we wouldn't want our pet to be hiding forever, you know, away from you know, family life. So it's kind of really thinking about getting cats used to children, and getting dogs used to children as well, and other animals. You know, often people have, you know, we focus very much on cats and dogs, but sometimes caged animals or small animals. You know, people keep rats or reptiles, and whilst yes, your reptile might not be particularly impacted by a noisy child, or that you'd be aware of, thinking about, you know, animals that you handle, maybe rats and cats and dogs. It's thinking about, you know, how children might interact and handle those animals as well. So we know there is a correlation between domestic violence and harm to animals. And so actually, when we're placing children and doing the assessment, well, when we're doing assessment with the doctors, we don't know who the children are, but they will eventually be linked and matched with. So we have to do a very broad assessment and of kind of understanding as to how they might manage in different situations. So actually, a child being placed, we might not necessarily, well, we never know for children being placed what their actual, you know, everything about their lived experience with their birth family. So we have to be very cautious. So it might be kind of bearing in mind that children might have lived around domestic violence, they might have lived around people who've been perpetrators of cruelty to animals. And actually, it's not that child is intentionally wishing to be cruel to a pet. It's actually about that learned behaviour, about that kind of tolerance of what they've seen in the past. They may well kind of reenact that, and sadly on your household, on your pet. So we have to be really mindful of keeping pets safe and keeping children safe. So, that they're all considerations about how, we can test pets, we can have a noisy environment for them, we can have children come in, but equally those really high levels of supervision also need to go alongside that when a child is placed, because we don't know exactly how a placed child is going to be towards your pet. So that's why we talk about, safe spaces for your pet, with stair gates if needed and things like that. And again, that bringing in that sense of really high levels of supervision. Until we know how your pet might react to a child, and especially how a child who is new to your home might react to your pet or pets.
That's fantastic, thank you for that. And so are there any considerations that might be useful for people to think about?
I think it's really about going into the assessment and having that open-minded approach, that actually you might think, your assessing worker is asking all these questions, you think, oh, but, does that apply to me? And what we need to do is we need to explore in the assessment, as I've said, really being sure that we can safeguard, your pet and a child coming in. And one of the things we also talk about in the pet assessment is how we might manage if a pet needed to be rehoused, and sometimes that can be a really difficult thought for an adopter, but it is a key question that we ask around, obviously if a child comes in, that we are mindful that children have had multiple placement moves, and we'd have to have real firm assurances that a child would actually be kept within the home. And unfortunately we ask our adopters about what they would do to rehouse a pet if necessary in those situations, if the dynamics in the environment wasn't working to keep pets and animals safe. And I think the other thing is about routine and thinking about, how you meet the needs of your pet now. So about a pet who might have, a dog that needs to go for a walk, regularly be walked. You might really enjoy walking your dog and long walks right now and things like that. Well, maybe not right now, it's very hot, we're going in the summer, but pets that get taken out, it might be a change of routine with the child coming in. You can't necessarily walk the dog at the same times or as much as you would like, and maybe thinking about a dog walker. And equally during introductions, it might be the case that during introductions where you meet your child and learn about their care from their foster carer, that you might need to go away for a week or two to stay in accommodation away from home, and thinking through things like, who will look after your pet or pets while you were away, maybe for a substantial period. And equally maybe people who might be in your support network who, as I say, can help you in the early days of placement with things like walking or helping out with pets, again, going back to those larger animals, horses and things like that, caring for the animals who are in the home, but also the animals who might be outside the home, thinking about them too.
That's fantastic, thank you. That was really informative and really useful. Thank you very much, Vicky. So there's lots more information on our website. You can scan the QR code, and we are pactcharity.org, and also like and follow us on social media. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Grace. Bye-bye.
Bye.